Today I'd like to talk about pause and what pause might mean. I'd like to share with you that when I was a very small child and learning about the ocean from my dad, who took it very seriously, that myself and my brothers and sisters were safe in the ocean, that I learned, as you might already know, that if the waves are big in the ocean, the way to stay safe is to go under the surface, to dive underneath the surface. And that when the waves get bigger, that it requires an even deeper dive below the surface. And the reason that one dives below the surface of the ocean is because underneath it's calm. Most of the time you can achieve, with a little bit of distance underneath, a place that's calm. So as the waves are big on the surface lately, I'm finding for myself that pause is critical for me. So what do I mean by that? I'm going to invite you to sit where you're sitting or stand where you're standing, and let your feet be a good distance apart that feels comfortable, whether you're sitting or standing, especially if you're standing. Some position or posture that you can be in that takes as little effort as possible. And then, as I'm already doing myself, I'm going to invite you, if you feel safe enough, to let your eyes close. Good. And if your eyes are open, that's okay. You can look at me. My eyes are closed right now. So if you're willing to close your eyes, I'm going to invite you to feel the soft tissue on the inside of your eyelids. I'm going to invite you to bring your attention to the tissue on the inside of your eyelids. And as you feel the inside of your eyelids, I'm going to invite you to feel your breath as well. You might notice that I'm pausing to give you time to notice that you can very likely tell in this present moment whether your breath is coming in or whether your breath is on its way out. Whichever is true is perfect. You don't have to do this at the same time as I do. So I'm pausing again to give you time to not only feel your in-breath, but to notice that very naturally and very easily, your body does this all by itself. Your body allows your breath to release. And then at some point, of course, a new breath comes in. So again, if it feels safe enough to let your eyes be closed, I'm inviting you to feel the soft tissue on the inside of your eyelids and feel your breath. It's very likely that you've been on the computer for some hours already, or that you've been very busy taking care of the business of life. And what I am suggesting in this present moment, and for the next 3 or 4 minutes, in fact, is the act of pausing. So as you continue to feel the soft tissue on the inside of your eyelids, and as you continue, if you're able to feel your breath, I'm going to invite you to simply notice where inside your body feels some comfort right now or ease, and where you might feel a little bit uncomfortable, and just adjust your shape any way you need to. If you're standing, you might need to bring your feet a little bit closer or a little bit further apart, or you might soften your knees a little bit, or let your spine be a little bit longer or a little bit more curved. Find as much comfort and ease in your body as possible. And you could choose, if you have a sense that sitting or even laying down on the ground would be easier than standing, you could choose to do that right now if you want to. Or at some point along the next 2 or 3 minutes, you might choose to sit or lay down. The soft tissue on the inside of your eyelids, the feeling of your breath, and notice whatever it is that's occurring for you, including thoughts that you might be having. When I take the time to pause, very often there's a rush of thoughts that come into my mind's eye. I remember things that I haven't done. Some things from the past come up, sometimes not very comfortable. Sometimes I imagine or project my mind into the future and think about things that I need to do later on today or tomorrow. Just notice what thoughts are coming up for you. If you're willing to pause for just a couple more minutes. We're doing this for around 5 minutes or so, this pause thing. So if you've opened your eyes and you're willing to close your eyes again, or if your eyes are closed, I invite you to continue to feel the inside of your eyelids. And if it feels easy, if it feels appropriate, I'm going to invite you to imagine that you can soften the inside of your eyelids, softening the tissue on the inside of your eyelids. And notice how it feels around your eyebrows, just above your eyelids, and the bottom part of your forehead. Noticing however tight it feels like in your forehead. A lot of us hold a lot of our body's tension in our face, especially our forehead, which is related to the frontal cortex, which is related to our thinking, which is related to our cognitive functions, which is what we are resting from for a moment right now. As you feel your breath, the soft tissue on the inside of your eyelids. And notice if your toes are tapping or your fingers are twitching or your body's swaying, and all of that is fine. It's perfect. The body likes to be in motion. But for right now, just for another minute or so, I'm going to invite you to imagine that you could be relatively still. Follow the feeling of your breath as it comes in and out. Notice whatever thoughts are coming to you in the form of pictures or images. Are you willing to pause for a moment? Are you willing to pause your outward activity, your outward doing for this moment, about 1 minute longer, including the feeling of your breath, the feeling of the soft tissue on the inside of your eyelids. And I'm going to add one more factor. I'm going to invite you to let your jaw soften a little bit. Where's your jaw? Maybe let your teeth or your lips part slightly, maybe even more than slightly, and just see if there's any tightness. I'm going to give you a little hint here. Every human being holds tension in their jaw. See if you can soften your jaw for a moment. Feeling your breath. Feeling the soft tissue on the inside of your eyelids. And noticing whatever it is you're thinking. All right, nice. And just sort of sway or rock your body, or maybe bring your fingers towards your palms and clench your fists a little bit, or wiggle your toes and move your shoulders. The body likes to move, and if it's still, especially if you're not used to being still. So I want to say that a pause can be critical to our well-being. And as soon as we start bringing our attention to the physical sensation of the body, we're lighting up. If our brains were connected to electrodes and we engaged, if our mind is engaged in feeling the physical sensations of our body, so if you would just let your hands come up and just sort of like open your palms and like your hands were opening, and create a little bit of tension by bringing even more space between your fingers. And then just sort of let that soften, let it soften, and let it soften. That's what physical sensation is. I can feel, you can feel, if your hands are more wide open or softer. softer, softer, softer. You can feel that. As soon as we pay attention to the physical sensations in our body, including the tightness or the softness, including the feeling of opening or closing, including the feeling of moving quicker or slower. As soon as we engage our mind in the feeling of the body's moving, we're opening a part of the brain that does that, that senses physical sensation. We share that part of the brain with all sentient beings, or all, let's say, animals, amphibians, for instance. A salamander or a lizard can tell if something's hot or cold, just like we can. As soon as that part of our brain that feels becomes activated, out of necessity, the part that thinks, that figures things out, quiets. They can't both be highly activated at the same time. So I'm just sharing a little bit of the neuroscience of the activity that Daniel and Anna Layton with the WITI Wellbeing Center, that myself, Fred Sugerman, has invited you to today. We're inviting you to feel your body, the physical sensations, maybe emotions also. They very often come up when we start feeling our body. We're not telling you not to think, but we are telling you that your thoughts will be altered as you feel. Your thoughts are critical to what, if you're in technology, your thoughts are so important. They're very important. A lot of people hear mindfulness and meditation, they think I have to stop thinking. I want to dispel that myth. The difference in what we're doing here today is we're including the body. We're going to think while we're feeling our bodies. And part of the intention of that is because information and inspiration arises from that. There's information that we don't consciously know that will bubble up as we include our bodies. It's stored in our bodies. When the tension lets go, information comes up. When the parts that are collapsed or unfelt create some tension, information will come up. And in my experience, that is related to inspiration. I go, oh yeah, I didn't even think about that. Because we'll be moving in a little bit, and it might be as simple as this kind of movement or simple as this kind of movement. But as soon as I start moving my body in different shapes, my neural pathways are affected. And our whole creative process is shifted with movement. So many of us are such deep thinkers that depend upon our thinking for our living, but we do it almost frozen. As soon as we start to engage our bodies, we open up pathways of information and inspiration, creativity, imagination. And this isn't something that's just me. I've worked with thousands of people over decades. And it's so important, so many sessions, not us today, although you're welcome to write something down if it occurs for you. In fact, I always have a pen and pencil or pen and my journal ready. I try not to do the keyboard during this process, but an old-fashioned pen and a journal, because I get really important thoughts when I'm doing this process. And I've had a lot of conversation with Anna, who's my collaborator. She is the woman in technology that we're creating this program with. And it's her firm belief, and she knows because she and Daniel, her partner, brought me in for this reason, that I know that if the world is going to survive, it's going to require the leadership of women. And it's going to include technology, of course. There's no denying that. So I want to just speak for Anna for a second, and Anna, you could chime in. Anna's life's work is about empowering women as leaders, as innovators, as imaginers of alternatives. Our systems are breaking down in front, it's in front of us. Things are not working like they need to right now. And it's going to take people like us to create new systems. They're not created yet. And I believe, I know Anna and Daniel believe that it's probably not even 50-50. It's going to be more about women taking leadership than men these days. It's more than 50% women that's probably required because it's been the other way around for so damn long.